are now listening to the Rough Tumble Podcast.
And we're live.
And we're live.
So welcome to the Joe Rogan Podcast. Where
I was gonna go somewhere with that. I didn't have anywhere to go. We got Jeff Bowie here.
What's up?
One of the things that I wanted to mention as soon as we get on is why are there so many fucking Jeffs in metal?
Well, it's the Caucasian parents mostly. That's mostly it.
It's the fact that there's a bunch of Chads and Jeffs.
Yeah.
I had to go through like all the Jeffs that I know. Like, have I met this guy before?
Well, because I kept asking Jonny on the way here. I was like, "Do you know Jeff?" And he's like, "Never heard of the guy."
That's all.
And he's like, "I've also never heard any of the shitty bands he's been in."
Well, it is. There's a lot to be said about that.
There were two. Do you remember the Handshake Murders?
Yes.
Yeah, there were two Jeffs in the Handshake Murders. We had to call one King Snake because we didn't have anything else to call him.
Was his dick speckled? I don't remember.
I don't. Didn't get to see that. Didn't get that far with him.
So Jeff is one of the guys that trains with us at Westside. But the reason that I wanted to bring Jeff on is because, we're kind of getting back to the old rough and tumble, right? Where we don't really talk so much about specific topics. But I've been wanting to bring Jeff on for a long time because one of the things that Jonny and I are attracted to for each other was that we both we grew up skateboarding. We grew up playing in bands. And so that's kind of what brought me and Jonny together. And we always talk about how the jiu-jitsu scene has so many hardcore people, right?
Yeah.
Like Jeff was a hardcore guy. Jonny was a hardcore guy. I was a post-hardcore guy. I just want to put that out there because I don't want people thinking that I was one of you guys.
Yeah, if they're listening to this, there's a big definition there.
Yeah. Post-hardcore was way different than hardcore.
What's funny, I was into hardcore, but not the music part.
It was mostly a search engine thing.
Yeah. You on the front end of that?
Yeah, you can find it on Reddit.
Yeah. Check us out at mitchhallbj.com.
This is the second time that joke's been made today.
Well, yeah, but it wasn't recorded the first time. So now it's in the inner space. But, Hillary Williams was in the hardcore scene. A lot of people don't know that. If you don't know who Hillary Williams is, then you can Google her and she will pop up either as a doctor or as a jiu-jitsu chick. Jiu-jitsu person.
You're so politically correct.
Man, you just never know, dude.
He has to be around me.
Yeah, when I'm around Jonny, I have to turn all my other stuff off. I have to get rid of the fact that I grew up in the South. I have to get rid of everything, all my cultural diversity, which was zero growing up in Louisiana. So
I'd like to think I'm making you better.
You're always making me better.
Yeah. Okay.
I like to think that I do.
Good luck with that, Jonny.
Yeah.
So, this is the part where you go, Mitch, you make me better too.
Nope. So Jeff, what bands did you play in?
Do you go back from the beginning or the ones that
Let's go from the beginning because we were talking earlier. We have a lot of crossover. And played a lot
I
of
knew you guys would.
Stuff. Yeah,
I knew you guys would.
So, as Jonny said, we share a bunch of friends in the scene, which is.
Is it true that you got into a fight with the bass player from Norma Jean?
Me?
Mm-hmm.
No.
I know. I made that up. I just wanted to talk about it though.
Okay.
Which bass player are we talking about?
See?
No, I didn't. I have gotten in several fights at shows, but not with any band members that I know of. So my first band, can we go all the way back to high school or?
Let's go.
All the ones that people would know.
Yeah,
okay. So there we go. That's good.
Nobody cares about your first band, Chlorine.
Well, we were actually called Shovel Load, asshole.
Shovel Load. So
we'd have been really big on late 80s, early 90s Sub Pop. We'd been a real.
I always throw out the Chlorine joke because that was literally my first band.
Really?
But it was spelled with a K. So it was KHO.
Look at you, scenester.
Chlorine.
Yeah.
So the first.
We also would have been huge on Sub Pop as well.
Right. So my first professional band probably would have been a band called Between the Second.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a chick singer, which was big at that time.
Person.
We had a female lead, but we worked with our first big producer in that band. We never toured, anything like that, just around here. And then from that band, I got into a band called Morningside.
I think I remember.
Yeah, it was like
I remember Morningside
yeah,
as well.
it was like it was like a kind of a new metalish band. It was with John LeCompte from Evanescence and Mind Rage and Rocky Gray.
That might be why I know that because whether you realize it or not, the Louisiana and Arkansas scenes actually intermixed a lot.
Oh yeah, they did. Yeah.
And so
the Baton Rouge scene was a huge part of Arkansas.
Dude.
Yeah.
And so a guy that I was in a band with, he dated Amy Lee.
Okay.
And so he was friends with a lot of those people. And so
Right.
I want to say it was probably around this close to, what year was that?
2005-ish. It's when they were on a break from their first record touring cycle.
Because this would have been 2006, 2007 time frame that we would have.
Yeah. So I did that band, and it had a guy named Jack Weesey from St. Louis. Really, it was a band called Fifth Element. They toured a whole lot. And then that kind of fizzled out when they went back to Evanescence for their next touring cycle. And then I joined Becoming Saints, which was like a metalcore band. Did that for, and then from there, again, we all share members. And then there was a band called Soul Embrace, which was big in that early 2000s metal scene. And they were getting ready to do a new record. And Rocky, knowing him from Morningside, was like, hey, we need a bass player. We're wanting to do this full time. And I was like, hey, man, let's go. You know, they had the opportunity to sign with Solid State and actually do a legit tour cycle and stuff like that.
Solid State Records?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so those are the ones. And then when I quit after that for a few years and, you know, started doing jiu-jitsu. And then I came.
Probably a better decision anyways.
Yeah, I made more money, which is having a regular job. So.
Doing jiu-jitsu let me get a job,
Right.
which means I made more money than when I was actually playing in touring bands.
Yeah, and then I came back to, you know, I just kind of went back to Becoming Saints when I actually signed a deal with them and did a little bit of touring, but not a whole lot. So
When you mentioned Solid State Records earlier, and because that's a Christian label, right?
it was, yeah. I don't really know if it is anymore. But
I know that. I think, and that's the reason I got really big into like MXPX for a while, Shonen Knife and stuff like that. And me and Jonny have talked about this before. I didn't have a lot of access to shows, bands, and things like that when I was growing up, where I was growing up at, and so I relied heavily on those monthly subscriptions.
Yeah,
So
like HM Magazine and stuff
Victory
like that.
Records
Yeah.
had like those things, and then
Their little sampler discs or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's how I found most of the bands I grew up listening to were because I would sign up for their little thing, like Blink-182's first record label where they put out Buddha and Chezzer Cat. I'll think of it in a little. Kung Fu Records. Yeah, so Kung Fu Records. Hey.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Kung Fu Records was a big one that I would receive monthly like discography with, and then Victory Records was another one. Solid State was another one. That's why I brought that up. Tooth and Nail was another one that had MXPX on it, I think.
Well, Tooth and Nail and Solid State were owned by the Brandon Ebel. Same
That's
guy.
probably why it sounds familiar.
That was their metal subsidiary or whatever.
Yeah, so for a long time, like I said, I grew up in the backwoods of Louisiana. So we didn't, and Shreveport had somewhat of a good scene. You know, Statues Cry Bleeding was out of there. I Wrestled a Bear once came out of there. And they had a venue downtown that everybody used to play out of. And I don't know why I can't remember it off the top of my head.
I know which one you're talking about. I don't remember.
Yeah,
It was like
and I'm sure Jonny even played there.
Yeah,
if he
I
was
can't
playing in the
remember
local
the name
area.
of it. But that place would pack out. That place was awesome.
Everybody was playing out of there.
It's funny to hear all these band names because every time I hear like earlier when I was like listing off bands I've been, I'm like, oh, I don't want to. Oh, that's such a. It's so cringy coming out of my mouth now. Back in the day, I was so proud of it.
Yeah.
I was like, oh yeah, this is a great. Speaking of horrible band names, do you remember a local band, Little Rock band called Schoolboy Humor?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
I did.
I did a full tour with that band.
Did you really?
Yeah.
I remember those
I
guys.
watched. So two of them were twin brothers. I'm not gonna get into how much I love those people, but they would get in these horrendous fights. I mean, just like
Like the Gallagher brothers from
comical
Oasis.
fights, dude. Like my very first time practicing with them, one of them picked up the bass drum and threw it at the other.
Whoa.
Yeah, we were at the Grand Canyon. And one of the brothers kicked the other's backpack off the edge of the Grand Canyon. It was one of like the highlights of my whole career.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
You know, it's one thing to see the Grand Canyon. It's another to watch someone get their backpack kicked into it.
Did you ever do that on tour? Like stop at like Grand Canyon?
Oh yeah.
We did that all the time.
Yeah.
That's the only cool thing. Like, I'll be honest, I hated touring, but that was the cool thing. There was a lot of places I got to see I never would have seen
Right.
if it wasn't for touring.
A lot of gas stations and then a lot of like just cool road places that you get to. You know,
I always call myself like a tourist who toured because I was never, all the bands that I toured with and all the bands that I was in, I was one of the only members that had a regular job that was doing it for fun. Mm-hmm. Everyone else was like, no, I need this to really fucking work out for me.
Right.
Like,
I've got to eat tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like whenever we go on tour and stuff like that, like I just never took it seriously because I always had a bank account with money in it.
Right.
And then, you know, and I know people are going to look and be like, oh, you know, what kind of, you're a fucking poser and shit like that. Well, I'm not going to call their names out, but one of the bands we mentioned earlier was bankrolled by their parents as well.
Oh, dude, you have no idea how many bands were bankrolled by their parents.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
I mean,
so like
it sucked. I think I shared this with you on the mats the other day. Was like, and you probably know this, Johnny's like touring and stuff. But I remember we were in California, and that's when, and it was like 2008, 2009 when gas was like $5 a gallon.
Yeah. That's when I was living in California.
Yeah, and it was so expensive to tour, and we were like, every cent went to gas. Mm-hmm. And it, you know, we're in a conversion van and hauling a big ass trailer. And like I had $3 and I was like, okay, I'm going to buy this 2 burrito Del Taco meal and it's got to last me 2 days.
Oh, I remember you talking about this.
So like you would have this Del Taco burrito sitting in the van in the heat for 2 days. And you're like, okay, I think this is the day I'm going to have to eat it. And
the worst thing that I had ever picked up from tour is shoplifting.
I know a lot of guys that did that.
That's how we lived. You know, like I ate off Snickers at fucking gas stations that I'd swoop and put in my pocket. It was terrible.
Dude, the microwave burritos under the arm.
Yeah.
And walk out of the store with them. That was classic.
Back then it was the cool thing to have the big puffy jackets with like the fur hood or whatever. Cause like Donnybrook was a cool band at the time.
Donnybrook. I love those guys.
The vests and everything.
Awesome.
They pulled a gun on my friend.
Donnybrook did?
Yeah.
Oh shit.
But yeah, so we would just fill our jackets with all kinds of nonsense. It was so stupid.
Oh man, you had to. I mean, it's funny because you have those bands that were, I mean, I'm not going to mention any of them, but there were several that we were on tour with. And like, oh, it's okay. It's my dad's credit card. And I'm like, man, fuck you, bro. Yeah. That's like, I've got $15 to last 3 days. Mm-hmm. And anyway, but
dry ramen and peanut butter. That's about all I ate. Yeah.
Well, we did like the good thing before we went out, we would buy like the cracker packs. Mm-hmm. You know, we would try and like, okay, I got to think about this in advance. I got a week. I need to save up crackers and tuna so I can have something to eat on the road.
One of the bands that I was in,
nice.
It was a fly. A band called the Brazilians. They're still active right now in Monroe. And it was one of those cool situations where I kind of came up in the scene watching them. They were like the mature band, right? Mm-hmm. Because everybody in the band was older than everybody else in the scene. It was more of a garage rock kind of art rock band, but they were like the Godfathers, right? And they kind of, everybody wanted to be like the Brazilians. And then I had the opportunity at one point to try out and join the band. And that was the last band that I had played in before I moved up here. And, you know, every band has a crazy person in it, at least one crazy person in it. And our drummer, John, was the crazy person. And we had done a show in Jackson, Mississippi, and we'd opened for this other band. We played, and then we were driving back home because rarely, like if we were playing out of state shows, we would drive there, play the show, turn around, and drive all the way back home. Mm-hmm. Like rarely would we stay the night and stuff, you know, if we couldn't. And I was riding back with him, and he was the crazy person. And we stopped at a gas station, and he had gotten some taquitos.
Yes.
And so we're having
like boxed or gas.
No. Like they were like on the rollers.
Oh yeah.
You know, like the roller taquitos. Yeah.
The best.
But he disagreed. So we're driving back. We're going down interstate. It's just me and him and his PT Cruiser. Johnny knows a little bit about PT Cruisers.
Yeah.
Don't you?
Fancy,
you know,
fancy
super
ride.
safe vehicle. And
I found out they go up to 101 miles an hour, and that's it.
They stop at 101.
Yeah.
So we're driving along, and like I'm kind of in that situation where him and I weren't super close. So we're two people alone in a car for a multi-hour trip back. And so it's one of those things where it's like, I'm not sleepy, but I'm going to pretend to be asleep.
Right.
So that I don't have to have weird, awkward conversations. Right.
Yeah.
And so out of nowhere I hear, and I have to back away from the mic a little bit here in a second. No. I thought you were clapping at the joke that hadn't been said yet. No, like out of nowhere I hear, fuck, piece of shit, God. And then I was like, what the fuck? I wake up and look over, and he goes, all he does is he takes a second bite out of the taquito and goes, I guess fucking not, and throws it out the window. And I was like, what the fuck, man? What's the problem? He goes, they were not as good as they were supposed to be.
For a gas station taquito.
Like there's a standard that it's supposed to meet.
It did not meet that standard, and he threw it out the window after having a huge conniption fit and like punching it. He did a lot of coke and stuff though, so I think a lot of it was him like coming down. But same guy, I woke up to him going, how about I cool you off a little bit when he was driving the van, and he throws the windshield wiper sprayer on because the person behind him was tailgating us. And so in his mind, he's going to do this and it's going to go up and spray him. And then he's going to back off.
Right.
It's just like,
Cool down, buddy.
Yeah, let me cool you down a second. Back up. I was like, this guy is fucking crazy.
Did you guys ever get into tour shenanigans?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
That's how you made it sane. Yeah.
Yeah, we had a thing we called swoopies, which was like it's our name for shoplifting mostly. But like, if you had something that we wanted and you had to call no swoopies, if you wanted to keep it, and like I came up on iPods like that. You know, like somebody would get in the vehicle, I'd be like swoopies. Like, oh fuck! You had to follow the rules. You know,
For an iPod back then, that would have been. We would have had a conversation about that.
We had some heated, and we had our drummer actually had a temper. He had an anger problem.
Strangely enough, John was our drummer and he had an anger problem.
We did
That's
everything.
why they beat on things.
Yeah. We did everything we could to anger him. And somebody had a picture of his current girlfriend giving a blowjob to one of our other members in a drainage ditch.
Oh my God.
So somebody, it'd be dead silent in the van. And then somebody would just send a text message. You hear bleep. And then you, motherfucker. And you start punching windows and stuff.
Y'all could afford phones? That's awesome.
It was sidekicks back then.
Oh, God. Yeah. Sidekicks were the jam, dude.
Those are awesome.
The picture was black and white, so it would be an artistic photo.
Yeah.
There you go. I remember that where we were on this, we were on the first, I don't know if you remember this, the Scream the Prayer tour. Do you remember that was real big? Like the Solid State face down. Anyway. So we were on that tour, and I remember everyone was pulling out their sidekicks. I was like, "What the hell?" I had like one of those slide phones, and I was like, "Oh wow, I'm way behind on the time."
It was so cool to just pull it out and bam,
Yeah,
and it
slam it around.
Oh, the flip it around.
Yeah, it had the keyboard on it.
Yeah. No, I had a Razor.
Was it pink?
No, it wasn't pink.
Okay.
It was red. It was a hand-me-down. But I remember I was going to Euler, so I'd moved up here in 2009 and was going to college at Euler, and I'd go in between classes. I'd go into this bathroom that had pretty good cell service,
right?
And I would like look at
in
porn.
A bathroom.
Yeah, I know, right?
Okay.
But also people didn't come in and out of it a lot, and so it was on like the second floor of the biology department on Euler, and I would look at porn because I'm like, well, I'm already here.
No one's coming in.
One's coming into this bathroom, but I just remember like having to go to these websites, and you couldn't watch videos because it was a Razor flip phone.
Right.
So you would just type it in, and type in like hairy Asian, whatever. And then you're just like, you're like, oh, I can't. Oh, there it is. There it's coming in.
It's going to load.
There it is. But my imagination was so good back then that I could just look at a picture and be like, this is going to work. Like now,
I can figure this out.
There's no way. I remember when iPhone 3 came out, I was like, I am so excited about the fact that I can watch porn videos on this, and now I have a 7 and I'm like, this is just not big enough.
Yeah.
It's just, the screen's not big enough. And I can't use a laptop because my hand hits the bottom of the laptop.
I'm also scared of using a laptop to look at porn because I don't want to like pull it up. I use it for the podcast.
Oh, I know. Yeah, we've seen what happens when somebody brings that up in the middle of the podcast.
Rolly said something about porn and I was like, just nonchalant.
He didn't even realize he was doing it.
Yeah. I closed the laptop and I'm like, the fuck am I doing?
Yeah. Rolly's like, I bet you if you type P into Johnny's search browser right now, it's going to bring up Pornhub. And he's like, what? And I was like, and I said, Johnny, don't close the laptop. It's going to stop recording. He's like, I didn't know I was doing it.
Sorry. That's terrible.
It was the best. Like, it was the best.
That's funny.
I want to take that snapshot on a video and make it into a video. Is she talking to
private browser. Yeah, private browser is where it's at.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's a good producer right there.
Yeah.
I can't see her, so she's
what's it called? The incognito mode.
incognito mode, yeah.
Oh, God.
Google's looking out for us. Man.
Yeah, there you go. Did you play any funny games on the road?
The only game I ever really played was I'm going to spend the entire band's money on alcohol and food. Like I made stupid executive decisions that the rest of the band wasn't aware of. Like we played this show in Lafayette, Louisiana, at a place called Artmosphere.
Can't read.
And so what they would do at Artmosphere is like for food, like so they give you 3 little tickets,
right?
Like,
food tickets or whatever.
Food tickets, yeah. So you could either get food and 2 drinks or any combination thereof,
right.
but you had 3 of them, right? And so I was like, well, I'm not hungry. So I got 3 Long Island iced teas and drank them as fast as I could. And halfway through the show, like I completely broke down. Like I wasn't even playing the songs anymore. Jamie, our guitarist, was super mad at me. Like he was just like, I think you're going to be out of the band now. And then I was like, oh, okay, cool. Well, then I still wanted to keep drinking.
Right.
And so I went to the manager of the bar and was like, hey, I talked to the band and we okayed it. And they just said, if we just get a bag full of beer instead of money, then that would be fine. And so she gave me a bag full of like Old Milwaukee's Best and Foster's those giant 50-ounce cans.
Trash bag full of beer.
Yeah. We get back to the hotel and the guys were like, hey, Mitch, did you get the money? And I was like, I got something better. And they were
Gross,
like,
warm Foster's beer.
I pulled it out.
Was there ice in it?
No. And like they were super mad. And then I ended up passing out and didn't drink any of it. So it was even worse. And then the other time I did that was everybody fell asleep on the way back from Austin. We played I'm going to say this very slow because we played at a place in San Antonio called Jiggers with a J, right? Like an alcohol jigger. And it was one of the worst nights of my life because we played with this band. It was called like Hollywood Undead or something like that. It was like one of those type, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they had like a tour bus and they were like super like glamour,
like makeup and
Yeah, they have their masks and all that stuff. Yeah.
And so we opened. So we had like a 30-minute opening slot. We played at it was like 6 p.m. Like nobody was even off work yet. And so like we're playing to an audience of 2 people. And then this other kind of like glam rock band comes out and then these guys come out and close the show. And I went up to the guy and I was like, hey, we got to go. Like we got to get paid. And the guy was like, well, just come back tomorrow and I'll pay you. And I was like, no, we're leaving tonight.
How's that work?
Yeah, how does that work?
Yeah, I'm leaving tonight. We're leaving tonight. It's 2 a.m. I need to get money. And he was like, fine. And we made $50. We made a $50 pocket. And so we're driving back to stay in Austin with some friends of ours that were in a band called Rock, Paper, Scissor. And we were going to sleep on their couch that night and then drive the rest of the way back. And we stop at, what's that? God damn it.
Love that
Incredible.
place.
Yeah.
Great story.
That's wow. Look at the jokes coming in. Oh, God damn. I can't remember the name of that show, that restaurant. It has tacos and sourdough bread.
Taco Bell?
No.
There's a Taco Bell with a KFC that we stopped at.
I know.
They might have
good.
sourdough bread. Maybe a Schlotzsky's and a Taco Bell.
Yeah. I can't remember the name of the restaurant off the top of my head right now. It'll come back at the very end of the episode. But I spent $50 on tacos. And they got.
Did you get 150 tacos?
Yeah, and they got super mad. I was like, "You guys are cool with this, right? Because everybody's hungry, right?" So I just, when it comes to those types of things, like I was the band member that, unfortunately, because I had a paycheck,
right,
and they didn't, I made really stupid financial decisions on the part of the band, and they never kicked me out for it. Strangely enough.
Weird. You must have been really good.
I don't have any alcohol stories. It was all the straight edge Christian metal. scene.
Jack in the Box.
Okay.
There we go. Okay.
I knew I'd remember.
Yeah, I never drank on tour really. Yeah. I never drank on tour. We never did anything like that. Now, it's funny you mentioned the Christian metal scene because that's kind of where I came from. But the thing that I caught on to when I really started touring was like, wow, a lot of these dudes are scumbags.
Oh yeah.
I was wow, I had no idea.
We were talking about, I don't care because I don't know any of them, but He Is Legend. We were talking about those guys, and I remember hearing stories about them like running trains on girls to the shows. And
Lord.
Then they would spout poetry about God and stuff.
Right. I mean, dude, I'm not here to judge anybody, but yeah, we came in. We can. Thank you, Johnny. You can take my spot.
Yeah.
But yeah, we noticed that a lot on the road. Like dudes would. I was telling you about this one time. These guys would just like disappear, and my children, my bride. Anyway, and then they'd come back and we'd be like, what is going on?
Was that the MySpace band? They got real big on MySpace because their singer. Yeah, he was like one of the first members of MySpace.
Had like 50,000 people on MySpace.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I mean, they were a decent band, but like, yeah. And, there was a bunch of bands, not just those guys, but there were a bunch of guys we toured with that would just disappear. And they'd come back with this random girl every night. And you were like, dude, weren't you guys just talking about like getting saved 5 minutes ago? And I was like, I'm feeling bad.
Why are all of you holding her hand?
Right.
We just saved her.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you don't have a whole lot of room to talk there, Jeff, because you played an entire show with your dick out.
I did. That's a true story, but it was not intentional.
I was about to say on purpose.
No, it was not. Okay, so I'll break. So we were playing with actually Handshake Murders. We were on a little short run with those
Can
guys.
we just talk about how good they were?
Man, that band was amazing.
Fantastic.
Those dudes should have been huge.
They really should have.
So good. But anyway, So I'm playing in my metalcore band. I have my camo shorts on, and I was really, I was really
wearing right
BA,
now.
I did a whole tour with camo shorts, with one pair of camo shorts and black Converse.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
the way you do it, man. And you just trade shirts with bands every night. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so I'm playing, and I'm like, man, it sure is breezy in here. And I'm just riffing away, and then I put my, the cool thing to do in the metalcore scene was to put your foot on the
monitor.
The monitor or your drummer's kick drum, and then like our drummer Dylan like pointed at me with a drumstick, and I'm like, what? And he kind of like flicks it.
Yeah, bro.
He like flicks my ding, and I was like, oh my God. And I had no idea I'd played most of the show with my ding dong hanging out of my shorts.
Amazing.
That was the last time I wore boxer shorts on tour.
Yeah, good choice.
With faulty zipper.
Yeah. As I Lay Dying, that was like the band that like broke the mold that came out. Well, when the guy tried to hire a person to kill his wife.
Oh, I remember that.
Came out and was like, listen, like literally all of these Christian bands are only doing it to make money.
Oh yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
And it's sad because it's like, I remember hearing them talk about like, if you want, if you're playing metal that's satanic, like we were talking about on the way here, to like just outside of that satanic panic phase. And then, so there's still a lot of that with the parents. If you want the parents to buy the albums for their kids, then you sign to a Christian label.
Right.
It's easy. Yeah.
Well, dude, it's funny you mentioned that because we actually toured with a lot of bands that were not Christian when I was in Soul Embraced. And those guys were way cooler than the Christian bands. But the early Christian bands, I guess you'd call them, were actually about, business. They were like, hey, we're here to talk about God. And those things, that's awesome. I'm cool with that. But it's funny you see that. I'm sure you see it in like the hardcore scene and stuff like that, where these bands are built on an ideal or a principle, and then somewhere like you have like what I call a second generation comes in, and they're like, well, we just want to be part of this scene, but they don't hold to that same ideal, and that's where you start to see the scumbaggery come in. Which I probably was a scumbag in my own right, but
that just sounds like a straight edge scene to me.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just the music scene in general, at least in my experience. But.
Yeah, I mean, musicians aren't known for their awesome quality of character.
Character or living or anything like that. Yeah.
Right. But we were also talking about before, like every single musician that I remember that was, failed band or whatever is a successful entrepreneur.
Yeah. Well, in my life, it's helped me a lot because I think we were talking about that earlier is like you in especially in the hardcore and metal scene, you've got to grind. I mean, this isn't like nothing's handed to you. And that's why we were talking about, belt promotions and things like that is I don't really get messed up about belt promotions because, it's earned. If you put on a big show when you're a new band, it's because you've earned it, because you've worked, you've earned your stripes and things like that. But you're right. I've noticed a lot of guys take that same grind mentality from touring and playing these indie clubs until you can build your fan base up. They've applied it to their life, and they're all pretty dang successful. Now you've got the other ones that are like, just want to drink beer, which is cool. I like to do that too, but I don't know.
I'm a fan.
I'm a big fan.
Yeah, I keep those guys on my Facebook so I can feel better about myself. Scroll through, I'm like, I'm doing all right.
The entrepreneurs or the failures?
The failures. Yeah, the entrepreneurs. I'm like, get out of here. I don't want to see your successes.
No doubt.
No, there's a lot of people that from my quote unquote scene, the Fayetteville area, that are like very, very successful entrepreneurs now. Then it's just incredible to me to see. And another thing too is like we talked about the crossover between hardcore and jiu-jitsu. I think it mirrors that. It does. It's the exact same idea, which is really interesting to me. I think there's something to that, and I wish we could dive into it a little bit more. I just don't know where to start.
Well, I think a lot of like hardcore metal and things like that. I mean, you come out of it or even punk rock. You start as like an angsty teenager or something like that, and you're trying to find your place. And the jiu-jitsu community is not like, and I'm not trying to talk trash about like, ATA or places like that. But
yeah, we'll do it for you.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Yeah. But the jiu-jitsu community was a real small community as well. And it kind of still is in a certain respect. So I think a lot of us that came from that scene are used to like, I don't want to say like a small gathering, but like a small group of people that are looking to achieve a common goal. And I think that's where maybe the jiu-jitsu crossover comes from.
It seems to me too that a lot of the same people enjoy like being the, I do jiu-jitsu. Oh, what's that? I play hardcore bands. Oh, really? That's interesting. What's that?
Yeah. That's a good point. I never thought about that.
Well, when I first started training 13 years ago, I remember thinking like, I'm doing something that not everybody else is doing.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and so that was a big part of my attraction to it when I discovered it. And it was the same thing when I was playing in bands. Like, you know, I grew up wanting to play in bands because not everybody was doing it. And like, if you became somewhat popular,
a competent
at it. But also, and Jonny and I talk about this all the time. It was in the same way in the skate community too. Like I've always treated the jiu-jitsu world the same as I did when I would tour with bands or when I would skate with guys, because like I've got so many t-shirts from other schools all around the country. So I go in and I always get a t-shirt from a gym that I'm training at. It was no different than when you would play with a band and you would swap t-shirts, you know, like you were always wearing like your buddy's band's t-shirts, you know? And so
always got to wear them in the promo pictures.
Yeah, of course.
Always, for sure.
And so I think there was a piece of that too. I think that sense of community that we kind of, because that was the one thing I enjoyed most about playing in bands, was getting to play with other bands that I really liked and getting to watch shows for free. And like when the Vadreens were getting bigger and bigger, and we were putting on more local shows, a lot of times we would bring in bands that we wanted to hang out with and watch, bands that really weren't that big, that probably weren't getting as much exposure, but it was more like so that we could hang out and watch them, you know, not because we didn't want to drive and watch them. So we just brought them to us and like said, hey, just open for us so that we can get a free show, you know? And we do the same thing now, you know, when people are passing through, right? No black belts and stuff. I don't charge mat fees, you know, if somebody's passing through or whatever. And, you know, there's no reason to. So I think for me, that was a big piece of it, you know?
You get to train with your quote unquote idols and
exactly.
the people that you look up to. Speaking of scumbags in music,
Bring it right back around.
Right, we talked about the basement, and we've talked about it on the podcast before because I've always wanted to do. I've wanted to do like a house show, but for like a jiu-jitsu tournament.
Right.
Wouldn't that be fucking cool?
That'd be pretty awesome.
But anyways,
you're gonna end up with some holes in the wall.
Oh yeah,
like a normal hardcore show.
Yeah, exactly
the
same thing.
There was an old hardcore band out of Fort Smith called the Iodrang Valley.
Okay.
And guitarist ended up murdering a baby.
What?
And his wife. Yeah.
The baby's wife?
No, two separate events. Turned out he murdered his wife by feeding her alcohol and OxyContin or whatever. And then later on ended up, I guess like the baby was crying and wouldn't stop. So he threw it on the floor and then turned himself in. This guy slept in that living room with me. Like I grind my teeth at night really bad. Woke me up in the middle of the night. He was like, dude, are you okay? And I can't stop. Like ever since that happened, I'm like, oh my God, dude, that could have been me. I could have been dead.
That's terrible.
There's countless stories about that where just water, please, if we have it. There's countless stories of people just like doing terrible stuff like this. I think that there's like there's also this group. And it's happening in jiu-jitsu too. There's like a small percentage of people that are seeping into the community that are kind of like
seedy,
surrounding themselves with good people, and they think that they can get by, and that kind of thing.
Well, we're seeing a lot of that in the jiu-jitsu community where you're starting to see like character defects coming in, like people taking advantage of girls, all kinds of crazy stuff.
The whole Renzo Gracie thing blows me away right now because like everybody is talking about, well, since he came out quoting Nazis, then everybody's like, oh dude, he's such a nice guy. Like, no, you're wrong. He's a nice guy. I've met him before. I'm like, yeah, I bet Hitler was a nice guy to people you met too. You know, like
you're
talking about Renzo from
Henzo
from not North Rock, New York.
New
York, where Gordon Ryan and all those guys train out of. Okay.
He had I think in like 2014 or something, he had posted a quote from Heinrich Himmler or whatever. And
I think I saw something about that.
Yeah, and it got brought back up.
Yeah.
And so he like tripled down on it. And it was like somebody said something about like, hey, they were from, was it France that was taken over pretty easily by the Nazis. And
they
like,
just walked in.
Yeah. And, I mean, France has been conquered by most everybody.
But he's like, hey, my ancestors, were a victim of this, and he was like, well, I'm sorry that your ancestors were weak and allowed the Nazis to take over. I was like, fuck, dude. I was like,
that's questionable,
right? And I think people are a big quote that I'm saying now is that like you have freedom of speech but not freedom of consequences.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. That's a strange one because it's like
he could have easily just been like, English isn't my first language. I didn't know what I was doing.
Didn't mean to say that.
ESL. That's I hadn't. But he did triple down on it, and good for him on not backing down on his beliefs.
Right.
So.
I guess so.
But there's countless stories like that, like with women and
Right.
all of that. Which, like, I've always been a big advocate for girls being in jiu-jitsu because, dude, they just make the place smell better. Honestly,
That's the biggest thing.
yeah, and
Well, even from a self-defense standpoint, it's very effective. I mean, I heard somebody say one time, because a lot of females take kickboxing, which is fine for fitness stuff, but I heard somebody say, and it was actually at Westside, I can't remember who it was, but they were like, well, I mean, do you think you're going to go 12 rounds in a parking lot, or do you think they're going to try and take you to the ground, take advantage of it?
right.
So which one do you think's better?
And if you don't knock them out with the first punch, what are you going to do then? You know, like
exactly.
and there's one of the things that I noticed the other day is like I talk about women's MMA just being shitty for the most part. I mean, like you can see a very big disparity in technique between girls when fights happen quickly, like very quickly in a division. You know that the level of skill is pretty
Right.
off, and then you don't see those like long fights until that higher level, like the Rose and Andrade fight that went 5 rounds or whatever, because they're evenly matched. But I feel like in jiu-jitsu, you don't get that as much. You see like the girls are just as technical as the guys. They go just as hard as the guys. They, and I don't know what's different about it. I think the techniques, honestly, or they've been designed for, we've touted it for a long time that it works for everybody.
Right.
And I think that's the biggest example of that is like girls consistently compete against each other and put on awesome shows. And you don't see this huge disparity as
Not
much.
in the jiu-jitsu community.
No. In MMA, you see it pretty often, even kickboxing, because there's the athletic and the non-athletic.
Right.
And then in jiu-jitsu, it seems to even out quite a bit, which I think is great. And somebody had posted a big thing about flow grappling, IBJJF. If you go through their Instagram feeds, it's nothing but men.
Yeah.
Nothing but males. And I'm like, from a perspective of a business, you want to put some hot females on there, you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, look at how anybody markets themselves. It's always females on the cover of it, but it's not fair to them. It's stupid, but I don't know where I was going with that. Anyways, back to the music scene.
No, it's an interesting point because I mean, I do believe that is jiu-jitsu's for everybody. And it's funny because, you mentioned Hillary earlier and we knew her from the music scene or whatever, but it was funny to see, like, at first I was kind of like, and this may be me being sexist and not knowing it, but I was like, she's like, really? She's that good at it? And they were like, yeah, dude. And then I started paying attention. I was like, wow, she's really, really good. And, it was just kind of cool to see a female come into like what you would consider a combat sport and be as successful as she has been at it. I think it's kind of
And she's been fairly successful in every endeavor she's pursued.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, maybe it comes from that hardcore scene grind.
I'm telling you,
Dude, she punched me in the wrist one time at Vino's and I almost threw up. And I knew from that day, I was like, she's going to be a great athlete.
I actually saw her at a show at Vino's actually choke a dude unconscious.
Oh yeah.
He kept bumping into her in the pit and she just threw a rear naked choke on him and just dropped him on the ground.
That's
and he just crossed her arms and kept watching the show. I was like, that is awesome.
That's next
great.
level. That is hardcore.
Yeah.
That is 100% hardcore.
Yeah. She may not remember that, but I do. I thought it was kind of funny.
That's hilarious.
What are some of your favorite bands to see live?
Oh man. Like in general or now?
Yeah, just in general.
I'd say one of the newer bands I've really been enjoying is Silent Planet. I don't know if you've heard those guys.
No.
Just cut out there, Joe.
I was thinking.
Yeah, you're good.
The only thing I can think of is yeah.
Sorry about that. Silent Planet. I like them a lot. Probably, man, I've seen so many bands. Like, you see so many bands that are good at their craft, but probably my favorite ones were, man, I don't know. The
Creed,
original Norma Jean.
Seven Dust.
Creed was
really good.
amazing.
Seven Dust is real good.
Finger 11.
Trapped was those
yeah.
guys.
Oh,
I mean,
Jesus Christ.
They were
Talk about
they were-
Christian bands.
Yeah. Christian band. Those guys were very headstrong. when I saw 'em, so.
The Norman Jean was good. Do you remember the Chariot?
Oh yeah.
I thought they were lunatics, dude. They were. amazing
okay,
on stage.
so there are bands that put on good shows.
Yeah.
And there are bands that play competently.
Yeah, this is a
So
band that played good shows.
They
for sure.
put on a great show, but they sounded like, and no offense to Josh and those guys, and I'm so happy for their success, but they were garbage.
Yeah.
live.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it was like, how many times can you just not play what your song is,
Right.
and just throw yourself on the ground.
Enough. Like they did it awesome. I loved it.
Well, I mean, a band that so in that vein, Converge.
Yeah,
those were
my
bands
favorite.
that went really
Johnny's
crazy and like could play like to the T.
Yeah.
And they were so good to watch live. Actually, Jacob Bannon has one of my favorite quotes from a show ever. There's a guy that used to be in the Little Rock scene, and we went to Nashville to see Converge. And I can't remember who they played with, but he was acting like an idiot in the pit. And Jacob Bannon from the stage goes, this guy was kind of a heavier set dude. He goes, "Yo, meet one, cut the shit, knock you the fuck out." And I was like, oh, I love that guy.
I remember watching him wrap a cable around his neck like a noose, and I thought he was going to hang himself. I was like, oh my God, I don't want somebody die.
Bannon was so good to watch live, man.
Yeah, he's fantastic. I tried
artist,
reaching
too.
out to him
Great artist.
to be on the podcast. I was like, please, you would I would cry.
Man.
He's a fantastic artist.
Yeah, he's good.
Amazing artist. And another person that's into actually MMA, he did Muay Thai for a while.
Yeah, I heard that. I heard it because Chris Pierce from
Yep.
Death Metal Dicks talked about that. He was like, yeah, man.
We'll edit that part out.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
He's actually a really competent Muay Thai guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, who was it? What is that? Trivium, the singer, guitar player from Trivium. He's like a purple belt from, I don't know where he trains, but I noticed he's training jiu-jitsu too.
Everybody's getting into it now.
All I remember about
everybody.
Trivium is they did a lot of speed picking like that.
Yeah.
And all that kind of
triple
stuff.
pick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not into it.
Stuff.
Not a fan. Another one of my favorite bands to watch was As Cities Burn.
Oh, yeah.
Like the original lineup whenever
Yes.
they came out with that first album. Fantastic live show.
We did a lot of shows with those guys.
Were they from Georgia or Louisiana?
No, they're from Louisiana.
They're from Louisiana
That's what I
because
thought.
yeah,
because we were talking about
Is it Metairie? That's right outside of New Orleans?
Yeah, and because one of my personal favorite artists, a guy named Jacob Disdare, and he doesn't listen to the podcast, so there's no way he's going to hear this, but he was in a band called This Blessed Morning.
Yeah.
And those guys were a huge help in getting them, like they kind of took them under their wing and really helped them like get around in the Louisiana scene for a while. So those guys have always been super cool. So
Nice.
Yeah, they were good.
I don't know him personally, but
Yeah. Well, I knew Aaron Lutzford, their drummer's from here. He's from Cabot.
Mhm.
And his first band, 5 Star Future, and my first band, we did some shows out of town together.
I love all these 2005 band names.
Oh, yeah.
I know.
There was another band that from Little Rock that blew up. They were real big for a second, and they were along the same lines as Cities Burn around that
PM
same
Today?
time. Yes, PM Today.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because they went. I remember their album had like a ship on it or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. What happened to them? Anything?
I don't know.
Anybody
I didn't
know?
really know those guys that well. We played
Okay.
shows with them, but I didn't know them that well.
Yeah, I thought they were going to be the next big thing.
my favorite local band is a band called Mismanage.
Oh yeah, those guys are great.
Lead singer's name is
I was
Christian.
about to say. I think this one.
That's Christian.
Shout out to my boy.
Okay. Is there even a music scene in Little Rock anymore? Or
Yeah,
in
actually.
Arkansas?
Well, it died off for a little while, but I kind of was removed, so I don't really know. But I know there's a band, Terminal Nation, from here. Some friends of ours. They're a big hardcore band right now.
Okay.
I mean, they got a new record coming out, and man, they're good. Paul Bearer. I don't know if
Yeah,
that's
I remember-
Paul Bearer's real big
I know
from
about Paul
here.
I think the last hardcore band I remember being from Little Rock was Jungle Juice.
Oh yeah, well that's Stan. Stan, the lead singer for Jungle Juice.
Okay.
It's his new band, Terminal Nation.
Okay, I got you.
Give them a shout, man. They're good. If you like Jungle Juice, you'll love those guys.
I wasn't really into Jungle Juice. Was Jungle Juice? They were a little bit like not trash talk.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wasn't really into that that style, but
It's not really my style, but Terminal Nation's good. They're a solid band.
Okay,
If you're into
I'll
that
check 'em
hardcore
out.
scene, they're pretty good. Their new record's gonna be real good.
they're gonna have to pay us now that we give them this free advertisement.
Oh well, they're our friends. They're my friends.
Doesn't mean they don't have to pay us,
Friends let friends pay each other.
right? So, what have you been doing outside of? I mean, have you been playing music right now or doing
Not really.
anything?
Not really.
No?
I mean, I'm 40,
Mhm.
and like my glory days of music are way behind me.
Yeah.
I'm thankful for what I got to do. I got to sign to a label I always wanted to be on. I got to play some really big tours, got to play some really big shows. Outside the scene, nobody probably knows who I am, which is also kind of cool because I can just walk, do whatever.
Well, Roth knows who you are from morning
Does he?
class. Yeah, remember he brought that up.
Yeah, I forgot. I was in
He was
Descended
like, "Hey,
from
weren't you?" The,
Yeah, Descended from Wolves was a hardcore band I was in for a little bit. And
that's a really cool name too. Descended from Wolves.
It's always really funny to me. Like I had a similar instance with MMA. I had a guy come in and be like, "Dude, I watched you fight in 2013 on Kingdom Promotions like this." And I was like,
Kingdom
"What?"
Promotion.
I was like, "Dude, I don't even remember that fight." Oh, because I was asleep. But no, I'm just kidding.
That's funny. No, man, when Becoming Saints we signed that deal with Rottweiler Records, which is like a small punk label out of Indianapolis. We did festivals mostly, and I'm not like I mentioned earlier. I don't like touring.
Yeah,
I don't think I think I wear thin on people's nerves because like I like to shower and I like to eat and I like to sleep in a decent bed.
It gets real annoying.
It gets, and not just that, but you're trapped like with people for a very long period of time, and anything will get on your nerves. But anyway, I haven't really done a lot of music.
Did you ever play Cornerstone?
I did.
Those were some good.
Yeah. Those were some
festivals.
good shows, man.
Yeah.
Man, that was big stuff.
Speaking of Me Without You, played there. I remember they had a great set.
I remember watching them at Furnace Fest in 2002, and they just completely stole that day.
Man, I listen to their stuff all the time. I can't get over how good they are. I think they're fantastic.
They should have been huge, in my opinion. I know Mitch is not a big fan, but they went
off on a weird direction there for a while. I don't know what they're doing now, but
well, they're about to wrap it up.
Oh, are they really?
Yeah, they're going to call it a day, I think.
I figure most bands are about to wrap it up right now.
Yeah, well, it's funny. Mitch and I were talking about this the other day about longevity in the scene. You know, you have bands like very few, like Every Time I Die, still going, still putting out great stuff. I mean, even, Mitch and Esley Dying, those guys are still going. Guys like August Burns Red. But the majority of guys are good for about 2 or 3 records. And then after that, they either burn out or, the scene's kind of passed them by, which is honestly what kind of happened with me was, around 2008, I signed with Solid State. But by that point, that style of metal wasn't popular anymore. Right. And that's when I guess you call it the deathcore sound came in. And we were playing with Acacia Strain and places in Through the Eyes of the Dead. And we were like, wow, no one's going to like this record we just put out.
Now it's all like what is that style called? It's like they all play on like 8 strings tuned as low as they can. Djent or whatever.
Djent.
Yeah.
Well, that's actually going out now.
Is it good?
Yeah. I was not a big Djent fan. No. But there are a lot of bands that they've moved up to like 9-string guitars. And I'm like, hey,
I don't even know how to play 6 strings.
That's why I played bass.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, man, I've just been focusing on jiu-jitsu. That's all I've been doing.
Were we all bass players here? Were you a bass player?
I think so.
Yeah. Nice. Awesome.
So the way I became a bass player was I had a guitarist tell me that I sucked at guitar.
Yeah.
So I gave the bass a try.
Well, mine happened the exact opposite. I played guitar and they needed a bass player. I was like, yeah, okay, guess.
That's a more common story.
Yeah, it's like, I guess I'll do it.
That's way more common. No, I always wanted to be a lead singer and a guitarist. And so I played guitar since I was 16. I never really got good at it, but it was because the bands I listened to, I didn't need to be fucking good.
Right.
I grew up playing the entire Nirvana catalog and stuff like that.
I need a bar chord, bro.
That's it. I didn't need to learn how to play lead or anything like that. And I was a rhythm guy. And so over time, I just, like you said, everybody was playing guitar and nobody was playing bass. And my buddy was like, man, you have really good rhythm, but everything else you suck at.
That's like people be like, man, you're really strong.
Yeah, exactly. So you're saying my jiu-jitsu is good?
Yeah. That's not what I'm saying at all.
Yeah, I'm saying you're strong. So yeah, I actually bought a bass and started playing and then realized like, man, for me, it was way more cerebral than playing guitar. It just made more sense, right? The simplicity of it made more sense. The ability to explore the instrument was actually way easier for me. And I liked being able to lock into a pocket and then just do my own thing.
I was a pocket player too.
Yeah.
And
so
just like staying in there.
Yeah. So I wasn't a big, but with the guitar and stuff like that, it's like, I just felt like it was extremely constrained. And plus everybody's paying attention to you. But when you're a bass player, you're, like I said, you're locked into a pocket back behind, kind of to the left side of the drum set or right side of the drum set. And you're just grooving with yourself and the drummer and everyone else can fuck all, Yeah. And so I really enjoyed that. And again, I also found it way easier to get into a groove and find a groove and play in that groove with the bass than I did with the guitar, you know? So
what's your story of how you picked up a guitar for the first time and got into that?
Well, so the thing me and my mom always bonded on was music. So she had a really cool record collection, but she was like a hippie. So she listened to Led Zeppelin and Cream and stuff like that. So that's what I grew up on. And honestly, my mom, being the hippie she was, she would have a whole bunch of people come over and they just play guitars and drink beers and stuff like that when I was a kid. And one time I was just, sitting in there with them while they're hanging out and they handed me a guitar, and that's kind of how it happened.
That's awesome. Yeah. My mom actually is the reason I started playing bass. Was I was saving up also. I had a job at I think I talked about it last podcast, at the zoo. And I saved up, my parents made me save half my paycheck the whole year. My dad's like, you're going to buy a car and you're going to be able to work and I'm not going to have to drive you there. And I'm like 14, and,
way to go, Dad. That's awesome.
And then my mom's like, I've been begging for a bass all summer. And my mom's like, let's go to the store. I'm like, hell yeah, let's do
this.
She let me spend my whole check. And then my mom got in a big fight with my dad. She was like, no, this is what he needs to do. He needs to have fun and do this. Like, he's worked all summer for it. So yeah, shout out to the moms out there.
Yeah, I know. My grandmother gave me my first guitar. She always wanted me to learn how to play, and because my dad played drums in a couple of bands, and they were in a band. He was in a band called Arkansas.
Oh, right on.
Not to be confused with Alabama. But yeah, and she always really pushed me in that direction. She was always pushing my art. Because when I would paint and draw and stuff like that, she was always the one buying me the supplies, and she was always pushing that direction. And we're super close even to this day. And she just gave me this old acoustic that was at her house. It only had 2 strings on it because it'd just been in the garage for whatever long. And I took it home. It only had 2 strings. Luckily, the song "Damn It" by Blink-182 doesn't require all the strings. Yeah, so that's what I learned. I wouldn't
imagine most Blink-182 songs. Yeah.
And so that's what I learned how to play originally, and then it just progressed from there. I saved up and bought a whole set of strings for it. Played from there. It was the worst acoustic ever. I don't even remember what kind of brand it was or anything like that. I just remember the action was so high on it because the truss nut had just never been adjusted. Yeah. And so I would play for 30 minutes and my fingers would just be bleeding from trying to press the strings in and move them around and stuff like that.
It's funny how you start playing like that because I had the same experience. I had a cheap guitar, but the action was at least an inch off. Yeah,
it was so painful.
But the thing was when you actually got a guitar and you started learning how to set them up, you can shred so fast.
I know, you're just like, oh, I'm so much faster right now.
I think, did you ever listen to POS, the rapper? POS?
No.
Amazing rapper.
Okay.
He was kind of one of those rappers that were into the hardcore scene and crossed over. But he, I think it was him that was talking about one of the reasons that he got so good at doing what he does is because all he had was shitty equipment.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, no. I'm mixing up that quote. It was David Cho, the graffiti artist.
Okay.
He was talking about the reason that he got so good at drums was because he just had shit equipment.
Yeah. Right.
Same thing with art.
You got to make it sound good.
Yeah. And that's where we're at right now with our podcast.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at with my jiu-jitsu. It's really shitty.
How long have you been doing jiu-jitsu, by the way? We haven't talked about that yet.
I think I started right after I came off of my last tour I did. And I was like, okay. And, I talked to Mark Sniff about it. He's like, man, come do jiu-jitsu. And I was like, yeah, I'll do it. But I'm on the road and, I can't afford it. Well, anyway, came off the road, started in 2009, maybe.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And then trained pretty heavy for about 3 or 4 years and competed a whole lot. And then I trained mainly at the old Westside Benton gym and with Chris Pierce and Justin Rice and Mark was there for a little while. And actually Brett and a few guys, TJ came out of that gym. Zach Thompson, Black Belt from Westside came
Zach's
out of that
amazing.
Gym. Yep. And anyway, they closed that gym down and I was kind of burnt out at the time and took a 4 or 5 year break. Mm-hmm. So I don't know, I guess since 2009, but not consistently. And I started up about a year and a half ago, maybe.
Yeah. Cause you would come in about a year ago with Mark and those guys, Tony, and then you've been consistently coming to my class. And so, but yeah, before that you were just kind of popping in with those open mats.
Yeah. Did you ref ever? Were you a referee with Naga?
No, I did scoreboards with Naga.
Okay. We might have met through that.
Yeah, I did because I used to go out with Chris and Buddy.
Yeah, that's how I met all of Chris and Buddy and Mark and
Did you
Zach,
ref for them?
I maybe ref for 2 tournaments and then they fired me. Kip.
Kip fired everyone for
this is the stupidest situation. I was in Dallas and I had an ex-girlfriend in Dallas and I was like, hey, why don't you come over to my hotel? Right. She meets me in the lobby and Kip is hitting on her in the lobby and smashing beers out of the cooler. Right. And I'm like, oh, hey, what's up? He's like, oh, I knew it was one of my guys, blah, 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 blah. Anyways, I ref the next day and then he sends me an email and I said, we'd send in our receipts or whatever.
Right.
Sends me an email. He's like, hey, I'd appreciate it if you don't stay out all night partying before the tournament. And so I was like, dude,
isn't that what everyone did?
Yeah, dude, we showed up drunk.
Everyone did.
That's all they did. Yeah. And I was like, well, I didn't drink that whole time. I stayed in my hotel room and I went to bed at 10 you were the one smashing beers in the lobby, hitting on this girl. But yeah, that was, dude, fuck Kip.
Yeah, I've heard that from a lot of people, and that have worked with him.
Yeah.
But
I think everybody I knew for a while there was reffing for Naga. I wanted to. You had to be a purple belt in order to ref.
Purple ref.
And
that's why I ran the board.
Yeah. I applied to ref for them and stuff, and it just never materialized to that point. And Chris Pierce was a purple at the same time, because I remember I had talked to him briefly about it. I didn't know who he was. I just remembered him from the tournaments and stuff. And he was, and somehow we were on like a messenger group, and he was like, yeah, dude, I'll hook you up. We'll get it squared away and stuff like that. And it just never materialized, luckily. But
if you have the opportunity to compete at Naga, don't.
Yeah.
Go compete at AGF instead.
Yeah, go at AGF instead, 100%.
Naga's pretty much fallen off, right?
Yeah, they have. I saw, speaking of Kip, he posted something about he was going to compete at one of their Nagas.
Like he was going to compete at his own tournament?
Yeah. Okay. Which I had seen him do before, because if you remember, they would, if there's nobody else there to compete, then they'd throw in a ref or whatever.
Right.
And Kip jumped in and heel hooked some poor guy like immediately.
Oh my God.
And this was before like anybody knew anything about leg locks. And that was like that was everybody's strategy. They just jump in and just rip somebody's leg off.
Of course.
And then get out of there.
Yeah, they cared so much about the bottom dollar.
We're making so many enemies on this podcast.
Of course.
I love it.
That those guys would just let the most ridiculous of things happen. Like you could literally choose your division the day of the tournament based on what you weighed. Like if you're like, oh, I don't know what division. I'm not going to register for the division until I get there and weigh in. Then I'll decide what division I'm going to do, which made it brackets impossible. It made like
sandbagging was
sandbagging was massive in Naga.
Yes.
Because they didn't do any tracking or anything like that. You had no idea. You'd have guys coming in as D1 wrestlers.
They told us to look at ears.
Yeah, look at
his
years.
Yeah.
I remember that. I would be competing, and not that I was ever a massive competitor, but like there would be a guy show up and just wreck the whole division, and you'd be like, "What the hell?" And then you find out this guy's a D1 wrestler, and you're like, "Well, no wonder I just got the crap kicked out of me."
You mentioned the whole ears thing. So there was a kid that trained who was legitimately a white belt out of the Jacksonville Gracie Baja gym, legitimately a white belt, and not a very great one either. But he was just extremely susceptible to the cauliflower, and his right ear was just fucked. Like it was so gross. And he was an active duty military guy, smaller, like 130-pound dude, and I remember he came to register, and he registered for the beginners because he'd only been training for 6 months ever in his life. He just got unlucky, right? And they were like, you have to compete in the expert division. And he was like, what? I've only been training for 6 months. They were like, not with those ears, you haven't.
I might have been at that table. I remember exactly this going on.
Like I walked over.
Where was the tournament at?
It was in Dallas.
Yes, I was at that table having that conversation. I was like next to the guy having the conversation with him.
I was livid.
That same tournament, there was a guy that showed up without a shirt, nipples pierced, long hair, and he comes in, he's just...
Everybody try and bone him, or what?
Yeah,
was the
you
deal?
could tell he was just a lunatic as soon as he walked in. Like he'd stepped out of his van that he lived in, and he comes in. He's like, "Oh, what's going on here?" I'm like, "It's a grappling tournament." He's like, "Oh, I want to do it," and he's like, "I used to wrestle back in the day." Blah blah blah. And like this guy was nuts. He ended up covering up the vending machines that were like, because we set up the tables next to the vending machines or whatever, and he like covers them all up with sheets that he had grabbed from wherever. I think they were just laying around or something. He's like, no, these have high fructose corn syrup in it. You can't be promoting this kind of stuff. Right? So he's like, oh, I guess I'll sign up for the expert division. And we're like, oh man, I'm gonna watch this guy because he's nuts.
He
dominated the division, dude.
What?
Jesus, slayed the whole division, and we're like, oh my god, it was so.
Did you ever find out who this guy was?
No, like
he just said he wrestled.
He was like, oh, I think he's at one point said he was from Hawaii or something like that. And he
was
looked
a D1
like
wrest that just got on meth on accident.
Just happened to walk into a tournament.
And then like it ruined his career, He's just like
picking up Naga belts.
That's hilarious.
And then selling them with his dog on the street playing guitar.
Dude, I love the Naga belts. Those always made me laugh.
The thing that cracks me up is that you can buy them at the stand.
Well, that was the thing. Well, so there was a guy here that owns a gym in quotation marks. And I was like, I was working out there and I'm not doing jiu-jitsu, just working out. And he was like, and I saw like this black belt certificate and I was like, okay, that's interesting. He had a Naga belt like in his case. And so I asked my work and I was like, who is this guy? Never heard of him. And he was like, oh yeah, you got a black belt. And I was like, okay. So I asked him when I was like, so who did you train under? You know, where did you get this black belt? He's like, oh, I got it. It's combat jiu-jitsu.
I know exactly who you're talking about.
And I was like, okay. I was like, so you competed in Naga? And he was like, yeah, I won. And I was like, okay. I was like, where? And I was like, yeah, I got a couple, Naga medals. And he was like, uh-oh. I know this guy knows something. And not that I'm like I said, not that I'm a huge competitor or anything, but I think he bought it.
Yeah.
I'm sure that he did. And especially when you told me where he got his black belt from.
Yeah.
They had said that that the reason that they started that was because like dads were promising their kids that they'd bring home a belt. Like, hey, son, I'll bring you home a belt. And they couldn't, so they had to go buy one. It's like $350 for one of those things.
Are you serious?
They were expensive. Yeah.
Holy
Those swords were real swords.
Yeah.
With blades on them.
And they'd give them to
were
kids?
sharpened.
As kids.
We'd stick stickers on them before everyone that was like, Dallas Naga, and before every tournament, and they're putting stickers on them for it.
Yep. My bronze medal has a sticker on it. From Dallas.
They should have just started giving those swords and then like 2 watermelons as well.
Yeah.
Here, take
Fruit
this kid
Ninja.
home. Yeah.
Go for it.
I can just see like a kid running around with one of those and getting impaled
Every time. I don't know how it made it that. Like one of the memories I have of tournaments in general, whether it's Naga or you don't see it as much as IBJJF, but you do see it a lot at Naga and AGF, unfortunately, is the teenage divisions and the kids divisions where you get 1,700 medals for the 50 divisions, and then they're walking around.
Clanking
and now you hear
around.
it's like clang, 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 clang. Like I go win a division and immediately go put it in my bag so that I don't have to ever talk to anyone about it.
The kids though. I mean, like
I get it. I just,
Did you guys ever go and like buy into that? Because I remember around the time I was competing, like if you didn't get a silver or a gold, you threw your medal away.
100%.
Oh yeah. I throw so many medals away.
Yeah.
Like F this.
I got to a point around purple or brown where I started keeping them as motivation though.
Right.
Because I brown belt was like real rough for me. I had a real hard time at brown. I went and competed at IBJJF and just got worked. And I remember I was like, I'm fucking holding on to this because I don't ever want to feel this bad again. You know?
Man.
I don't ever want to have to stand on a podium and get a give me medal. Like
I know. Well, I remember when I wanted to
wear
compete
it every day.
I wanted to compete in IBJJ, and Rolly was like, yeah, whatever. Rolly's like, no. He's like,
you're not there yet.
You're not there yet. And I was like, no, I want to compete. And he's like,
look, just stay on the Naga circuit for a little bit.
Right. Yeah, well, that's pretty much what he said. Him and Chris both are like, don't waste your money. You're gonna get killed. And I was
back then, like it wasn't quite what it is now. So like if you were competing at IBJJF, like there were some monsters on that whole tournament circuit. And not to say there's not now, but now more people are. You have more average competitors now competing on that circuit. So the same guys that are doing AGF are also doing IBJJF. So it's not like you're not going to run into world champions like you did back in the day as frequently as you do.
It's starting to become a money thing though. Like you walk around like some of those IBJJF tournaments, and I hear like blue belts talking about like, oh yeah, I just spent 8 months in Brazil training for this, and then I flew out to San Diego and trained here and did this. I'm like, Jesus, dude, I had to save up to register. And like you trained wherever the fuck for however long for this, and like it's becoming a money disparity kind of thing.
I see at least one post on Reddit a week of a white or a blue belt posting, hey guys, what do you think it would take to just train jiu-jitsu full time?
Yeah.
It's like, well, I think you're off to a good start.
Start by
your
training.
Intentions are good. Start by training.
Because it sounds like you still live at home with your parents.
Yeah.
So that's the first step. From there, like a white belt would be like, hey, what do you guys think? What do I got to do to try to get a sponsor? And it's like,
you don't need to worry about that at that point.
I was absolutely that white and blue belt. Yeah.
I had a gameness sponsorship as a purple belt.
You know what? That's how I got my, I still have sponsorships that I got from like amateur MMA days. That's
really?
that cruise combat. Yeah. They've been awesome sponsor for me. They've been great.
I've never
You can check them out at cruisecombat.com.
Yeah. They've hooked us up too on the podcast.
I just remember I got my blue belt and I was like, okay, I'm a world beater. And then, because I was like wanted that blue belt so bad, and then I got it, and then that's when I started talking about like, hey, I want to go do IBJJF.
There you go. Thank you.
And Chris was like, no, no, man, just because you got a blue belt, you're gonna get torched.
I got my blue belt and went to, like maybe 2 weeks after, went up to Chicago to train with Miguel Torres.
Oh man.
And one of his 14-year-old yellow belts beat the shit out of me. And all I could think about is how I don't want to ever do this again.
Oh man.
It was horrible.
I'm never traveling to train again.
Yeah.
I remember
staying in
doing
my
that
gym
too.
where I can beat everybody.
Well, when I was when I was doing the Naga circuit, just when I could, I'd be like, yeah, let's go train at this gym. And I'd be like, well, okay, I got a blue belt. I kind of know what's going on. And I would just get massacred. And be like, wow, I really suck. Not much has changed, but
Yeah, you're
it was just a different, it was a different
You're
state.
just an adult now.
Over time, I worked for Delta Airlines for a little while. So I got to travel like anywhere I wanted to for free. And over time, I started, I went to Marcelo Garcia's and Carlson Gracie Jr.'s, like these really big gyms. And it became less of me getting my ass kicked and more of an affirmation to me that like, oh, I'm doing the right things. Like,
Right.
I'm there. There's no secrets here. I just got to keep doing it, And that traveling and training has helped me, I think, personally a lot. In recognizing those flaws, and then also being able to like kind of a confidence booster. Like, if I can be a everyday blue belt at Marcelo Garcia's and I'm a blue belt, then I'm on the right track at least.
Yeah, if you're not leaving your gym to go train other places, you're doing yourself an absolute disservice, especially when you get into the brown and black belt division or brown and black belt parts of your career. And there are people even in the local community here that train that they don't leave their gym, and
I think especially in the local community.
Yeah, they don't leave their gym and they stay, in the area that they feel safe, and it's like, man, just what ends up happening is that you beat your students and you beat your training partners that you see every day, and that's your affirmation.
Right. And
then you go to another place and train, and then it's the opposite. And now you have to question, you'll make up excuses, whether it's like, oh, well, those guys are just, they all compete. So those are competitive blue belts. Those are competitive brown belts. I'm just an average brown belt,
right.
Or whatever the case is. But
well, if the goal getting into it was to be an average black belt, then what were you doing in the first place?
What are you doing? You're right. Exactly. And like, even if you're in a gym that predominantly teaches self-defense, if you're not actively practicing self-defense in a competitive aspect somewhere, because you can't legally just go get into fights on the streets,
right.
So if
not with these hands, not with registered weapons,
and that's
those registered.
That's been my whole thing. Is like, man, if you're
that's how they get you.
If you're actively promoting a gym as a self-defense oriented gym, it's fine, but what are you doing to make sure that you're still doing the right things?
Well, listen, Mitch, when I go to my 2-week class and I get my blue belt, then everyone knows I'm a badass.
You're right. You're right.
Absolutely.
Or if you
wear it to the gas station.
That's right. Absolutely. Or I have a keychain with it on there so everyone knows.
That's why you got to get ears, man. I don't need my belt anymore.
I got my
ears. My ears just speak for it.
Yeah. You think I got these hugging people? You're right. That's exactly what I
did.
In pajamas.
Aggressively hugging people.
100%. But yeah, I think people need to be leaving their gyms, especially when you have as many gyms as we have locally.
Yeah,
man, every Saturday or Sunday, if you're not at another gym's open mat, I think that maybe you're doing yourself a disservice and your gym a disservice. So,
well, it's culture too. Like, everybody knows why you should leave your home state and go out other places and learn about other cultures. It's the same thing. Like, you need to go see how everybody else is doing it.
Right.
If not just to like I said, give yourself a confidence boost. Like, I'm doing the right things.
Yeah.
Or
it's the same thing with, it circles right back around to the hardcore punk music scene. If you're good in your hometown, that's cool.
Local celebrity.
Yeah, local celebrity. But if you're not going out and trading shows with other people, you're never going to know how good you really are. And I think that goes right back to the jiu-jitsu thing is, if you're going out and handling business, not really handling business, but, being able to, roll competently with people that are of the same rank at a different gym, you're like, okay, I'm actually decent, or I'm doing the right things.
Right.
How much of being a touring musician do you think has like taught you how to be poor and like given you, I feel like it's given me an advantage in life.
Oh, it has.
Nothing's going to be as worse as sleeping in the back of a van with 15 dudes in the middle of August.
Yeah. It helps a lot. You're like, well, I can, everybody's like, man, I got all these bills. I'm like, yeah, well, you can live off $20 if you really wanted to. It's not that big of a deal.
Yep.
Dude, I've watched Brazilians do it.
Oh, yeah.
When Bruno first came here from Brazil, I watched that dude live for like 2 months on $100.
Yeah.
And it's just like, yeah, I guess you can.
You can do the same thing in Brazil, actually. But you live like a king.
Yeah.
Their food is so cheap. It's great. dude, I want to save up like $500 and move there for the rest of my life.
Yeah, you would literally be upper middle class.
Have you trained in Brazil?
Yeah, twice.
Nice.
Mhm.
That's awesome.
It's
Have you, Mitch?
No, never have.
it's again, it's like I went and there's definitely a little bit. The first time that we went and trained at like we were in Rio and we trained at like Nova União where Jose Aldo trains and everything, and I felt more like I had a target on my back the whole time.
Right.
And the second time that I went, we trained. We're real close with the gym, a Gracie Baja gym there, and as soon as I walked in, I felt like family. And
Nice.
like everybody was hugging me. They were all they were all about us and wanted to help us out. And that's where like I've talked about like shaking hands on the mats is like something that I brought back because like that was the easiest way. Like as soon as I shook hands with everybody, everybody knew me. I knew them.
Yeah.
We were all comfortable with one another. And that was something that apparently is common in Brazil. Like everybody does that there. But the first time I went, I didn't know that. And so whenever I went into Team Nova União, I didn't shake anybody's hands. And I think that's why I had a target on my back.
They're like, who the fuck is this guy?
Yeah. And
You think it'd be different if you went back now knowing that?
I really don't know. I don't know if it was like I don't know if it was an attitude like these Americans are here, like we need to beat the crap out of them, or maybe that's just the way that their gym worked. Because there are those like gyms that are like, we're here to be hard-nosed motherfuckers and we're just gonna grind you into the mat no matter who you are. And then there's other gyms that are like, we're here to have fun,
Right. Let's just train. Yeah.
And it's hard to tell because I don't speak the language, so I don't really know can't pick up on the vibe. But yeah, it's fantastic. I love it. It's always a learning experience, and I always pick up tons of new friends. And like, I mean, one of my best friends, Danilo, I brought him back to Arkansas for a little bit to train, and dude, turns out like, of all places, he's like into all the same music that we are. Like,
wow, really?
I flipped on some like.
I thought they just listened to Sepultura.
No, like, dude, he was into like one of his favorite bands. You remember Emery?
Yes,
dude. I had to listen to that band for fucking days. I was so tired of it. He loves that band. But that's yeah, like funny. We were all into the same music and all of it. And he was like super into Norma Jean. I was like, dude, those guys are from here. And so like we connected on that level, awesome. And it was pretty cool.
That's funny. Kitty went to Brazil for a few months, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So did he go to the GF team? Or
Yeah, he went to, I think he didn't go to Mare, or maybe he did go to Mare. There's two locations. There's like the headquarters, and then there's like the other gym where like Bruno and Dennison are from.
Okay.
And at the moment it's escaping me, but he went to one of those, and it was a really strange event for him.
That's what he said. He's talked about that.
I could imagine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and he was on the podcast. He talked about it a little bit.
Yeah. They threw his clothes in the trash.
What?
Oh yeah. They did some really, they kind of bullied him a little bit. And he's a sweetheart. So he's just like, oh, whatever, but he still made some really awesome friends there too,
Again, the culture is very, very different there.
Yep.
Yeah. It's they unfortunately don't look on equality the same way that we do a lot of the times.
Is there like a big disconnect when you mentioned maybe coming in as an American? Do they look at us different? Like if we went there to train, like if we were like,
I don't think now they would,
right?
But maybe a couple of years ago, probably.
Yeah, it is a little bit. Like I said, like there is some of it where they're like, well, the first time that I went, somebody caught word that I was an MMA fighter, and they thought that I was like the biggest. They thought that I was like UFC champion. They wanted to like take pictures with me, get my autograph, and I was like, dude, I'm like high level amateur at best. Like I'm about to turn pro, and that's about it.
Right.
But to them, fighting in the United States is like that's the goal.
The pinnacle.
Yeah.
The UFC, like everything is the UFC whenever you're fighting in the United States, and so it was like a really, really big deal for them. But this was in Teresópolis, which is outside of Rio. This wasn't at Nova União because they have freaking everybody's in the UFC out of that gym. But they just thought that was like the biggest thing ever, and I was like, this is weird.
It's interesting.
Yeah. So some of the ideas in there, the same way that we do. I mean, when we go there, we're like, they're gonna have these magical techniques that we've never seen before, and then you get there, you're like, oh, that's really not that different. I imagine it's probably the same for them.
Gotcha.
Here, they probably think we're all going to heel hook them in the gi.
Right.
I mean, I will.
Yeah, of course. A win's a win.
Yeah.
That's right. DQ or not, I won.
I tell this story, though. I have these sneaky, I'm the king of stupid submissions from bad positions. And I have the little arm lock that I do when somebody takes my back, And I had another black belt take my back, and I ended up getting the arm lock on him. And this guy was later, Danilo told me, he was like, yeah, that guy has mind demons. And I was like, what? But so I submitted him with he gets up and he starts like hitting himself on the head. I was like, dude, I'm sorry. Like, are you okay? And so I told Danilo, but he's like, yeah, he's got mind demons. Don't worry about it.
It's okay. It's okay. Sometimes, yeah, he has earworms.
Yeah.
He's got pinworms in his ears.
Yeah.
But it was it's an interesting experience for sure. I recommend it to anybody.
I've heard that. I've heard if you go down there, it's interesting and very different.
Mm-hmm.
Like the way they handle the sport is very different.
Yeah, and the last gym that I was at in particular, it's much more like a religious experience almost. Like the coach gives a probably 30-minute speech at the end, and I don't know what he's saying, but it was very like important. You know, like everybody's like really tuned in. There's even a point when he's demonstrating. He had a brown belt come out.
What if he was just talking about like, listen, Roots is not the best Sepultura record. Right. Okay? It's got to be a Rise.
The whole time he's like, if you don't fucking kill these Americans, I'll do it for you. And we're all like, oh yeah.
Yeah. I feel very inspired.
Yeah. He had a brown belt come out and he demonstrated on him. And this brown belt in particular was very, very flowy. I mean, like it felt like doing jiu-jitsu with a towel. Like, I mean, it was just very flowy. Super good jiu-jitsu. Was just like real light. And the instructor was like, he ended up like telling him to get off. He's like, go. He's like, jiu-jitsu doesn't need any help. Like, you know, because you know, like he'd pull him up on his side and the guy would turn up to his side. And he was like, no, I don't, jiu-jitsu doesn't need help. If I'm doing the technique right, you don't have to turn. I'll make you turn. That kind of thing. And I was like,
nice.
whoa.
I do like that, though.
Yeah. And I picked up a lot of really good like little quotes like that. One of my favorites is he said something to the effect of like, jiu-jitsu is like life, everything. But like if you don't capitalize on the opportunity when it presents itself, you're not going to get it again. Mm-hmm. You know, if you don't hit that armbar right away, you're probably not going to get that opportunity again. And so you've got to capitalize on it.
Yeah.
And that was one of those profound moments where I was like, wow.
Yeah, I like that. That's good.
Yeah. That's true. I mean, that probably helped me a little bit because, like I said, I'm a pretty crappy blue belt. But you know, there's like Mitch all the time. Like, yeah, it's gone. It's gone. It's gone.
Yeah,
that's all right though. So, what else? Do you have any other like projects or anything? Nothing. No. We talked about music, but you know, you're just existing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just a dad now.
Oh, okay.
I got two kids, married, and I just go to work every day.
What do you do for a living?
I work in insurance.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right on.
So if you want a good bedtime story, I'll tell you all about what I do.
Yeah.
You'll go right to
safe bet.
Yeah. I get that safe check every 2 weeks.
Yeah. So you went from music, being on the road, being a touring musician, to insurance.
Well, man, it's funny. I actually toured while holding a job.
Okay.
So I would use my job was pretty cool. I had to quit at one point when I went full time. I did have to quit, but they would let me take leaves of absence for like small, because I never really did like, all the time. It'd be like 2 weeks at a time. They'd be like, well, just use your vacation or take a quick leave. It's not a big deal. And they'd let me go and then come back to work, which is actually kind of cool.
It's super cool. I did the same thing when I was touring. I would save up vacation time.
Right.
And then we would do like a week here.
Yep.
We'd make a circle from like Monroe, go down to New Orleans and Lafayette, and then cut over to like Oxford and come back up. And
it's funny, man.
Yeah.
Like you could just do those week or two runs and you could hit a lot of major cities.
Oh yeah.
Just be like,
because there's a lot of towns, like Hot Springs is one of them, where they've got live music every night.
Right.
Monday through Saturday. Either your bigger shows are going to be Friday and Saturday nights, obviously, but you've got venues available Monday through Sunday almost.
Most of the time you could spend a week in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
You could hit every city in Texas.
You could hit 5 clubs in Austin in a full night run.
Right.
We did so my route was I was a preschool teacher.
Yeah.
And then during the summer I would go tour.
Oh, that's perfect. Yeah.
Who was it? Chris McLean from Stretch Armstrong used to do that.
I saw them years ago.
Yeah, he was an English teacher, and that's what he do. They toured in the summer and they play but they were in South Carolina, so they could hit. And that's what sucks being centralized is you have to go to see. But like that's what always kind of drove me crazy. It was like if you were on the East Coast in a weekend, you could hit Boston, New York, Rhode Island.
It's the same thing with jiu-jitsu.
Yeah,
it's so easy to hit all those jiu-jitsu tournaments. We have to fly out to anywhere. I talked about this when I went and competed in Chicago. Mm-hmm. It was like I had to fly to 8 different places just to get to Chicago and then compete and then go back in a weekend and then go back the next day. And like
that sucked.
Yeah. It was
hated that.
horrible. But what are you going to do? Like, that's kind of the position that we're in because nobody wants to come to Little Rock for a good reason.
Yeah.
No, there's not much here.
They've talked about an IBJJF event coming here, but
why?
I don't know. I guess.
Why would they not go to Dallas?
Well, they do. They do go to
Memphis?
Dallas. You've got Dallas and things like that. And they tried it in Memphis. It wasn't that successful, but I think they still do it in Memphis. And so bringing it to Little Rock, it would just be like a test bed to see, like, do we get, who do we bring in from Missouri? Who comes in from Texas? You know?
Honestly, I think Little Rock might do better than Memphis, though.
Mm-hmm. I think so, too.
Memphis doesn't have... And I don't think Memphis has a whole lot of jiu-jitsu.
It's like 2 schools.
No, there was a black belt we used to go train with up there. His name was Jason. I can't remember his last name right now. But we used to go train with him, and he was like the only school around there at the time.
Memphis BJJ and Judo was one of the only gyms.
That's
for
who
a
it
while.
was.
Yep.
Yes, that's who it was.
Yeah, that was the only one. And now all the guys from that gym have branched out. So you got like the Mark Millers and the Eric Ingrams. Well, he wasn't part of that particular school, but and then you've got the Zach Lee, who submitted me at Worlds. No big deal.
No big deal.
No big deal.
You sound like Michael Bisping now.
Yeah.
Did you watch the fights last night? Oh, it was the worst commentating I've ever heard.
Was Bisping doing it?
Yeah, and all
Did
he
he take
wanted
his eye out?
No, all he wanted to do was talk about
When he fought?
Yeah, when he fought. He was like, "Oh, he's like when Anderson Silva knocked my mouthpiece out and then knocked me out." And I was like,
But I was a fighter. I was. You
Thank
couldn't even
you.
get the. I couldn't even stand on my
Irish.
left eye. Oh yeah, you're right.
Thanks,
Fuck.
Bisping. Appreciate that.
I'm the
Yeah,
worst.
the Irish Bisping,
I'm Conor McGregor.
also known as Potato Bisping.
I think he's my uncle.
Yeah.
No, it was decent fights, but it was horrible commentating.
That's
Not everyone is going to be a commentator.
I decided
not everyone's a Goldberg.
right. Yeah,
What is that guy doing now?
I don't know.
Bellator,
I think.
Bellator.
I thought he was
Yeah.
selling insurance.
and doing a lot of pills.
There's nothing wrong with that, Mitch.
Pills, insurance, and Bellator, baby.
Yes.
We had I forgot where I was going with that. But
That's all right.
Yeah. No, No, I stopped giving my money to the UFC. I got mad when I saw Dana White in a Rage Against the Machine shirt. I was like, "You are the fucking machine, man.
You are the man.
Yeah, I'm canceling my subscription." I was so mad about it.
That's hilarious.
What, like, the irony of that, though? It's just, it blows me away. Like,
You're the man.
if Zach De La Rocha saw him in that shirt, I would hope he would punch him.
Well, listen, I love Zach De La Rocha, and I love Inside Out, and I love
Yeah.
Rage Against the Machine. And I love One Day as a Lion. But did you see the Rage tickets when they were going to go tour before COVID hit? Oh my
Were
god,
they outrageous?
they were outrageous.
Yeah. How much of that do you think is because of Rage or because they had a lot of problems with like the
Ticketmaster.
Ticketmaster would buy up the tickets and then
And
jack
then-
up the prices and stuff.
I really don't know.
Yeah,
I don't
wonder
know.
how
It's a good
much
question.
That had to do with it.
I'd be real interested to see what Tom Morello had to say about it. But Zach's been kind of on the low end of the
Oh,
Rage
yeah.
scale.
Yeah, he
said a
did.
whole lot.
He did some work with Run the Jewels. He did a song with them, which I thought was really good. But I haven't really seen anything else outside of that.
One Day as a Lion's the last thing I heard. It was basically like a Rage rehash, but it was good. I liked it.
You know what people really love to do is tell you that they know about Run the Jewels. I'm not calling you out.
Yeah.
Because you actually introduced me to that band.
Right.
But after that, it seems like
Everybody was posting the symbol. I know.
Yeah.
I saw a lot of people on my Instagram. They were posting it, and I was just like, they've been around for way before this whole movement, you know?
Right.
Like, but yeah, Run the Jewels was one of my favorite bands, and I did introduce. I didn't introduce Jonny to him, but we did an album review of one of theirs.
Yeah, I missed that one.
But yeah, right after everything went down with what was going on in the world at that time, everybody was posting that symbol of them. But
I don't know what Run the Jewels is.
it's a band. It's a rap group.
Okay.
Yeah,
I got Spotify. I'll check it out.
Yeah, because what made him huge was one of the vocalists. He's a really big rapper, and he was an activist for the movement and stuff like that. And so he became.
Is that Killer Mike? Okay, yeah.
And so he became kind of an activist for the movement. And so then that turned everybody on to Run the Jewels.
I got you.
But it's like,
okay.
well, they were putting out music before all this happened, you know.
They remind me a little bit of Atmosphere. Have you ever listened to
Yeah,
Atmosphere?
for sure. Yeah, yeah, we talked about that.
Interesting.
Yep. Which is another group that they came out with something right when Corona hit. And then I haven't heard anything about it. I was hoping that they were going to make a big comeback and start making music again. But
It's like, why? Right now, why would anybody make any music?
you know what? I thought
can't
Right now is
tour
the
on
time
it.
to write music.
That's
Yeah,
exactly
exactly.
what I
Write
was
it.
thinking,
But I'm
like-
saying, like, don't put it out. You can't tour on it. You can't.
Yeah.
there's nothing you can do with it. You're just going to put it out and hope it sells digitally, you know, like.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like some of these bigger artists, like the really big artists, they don't really make a lot of money touring.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I don't know, like Lil Wayne or whatever. He doesn't actually make much money touring. I'm sure he does, but like, you know, the bulk of his money comes from the album sales and all of that stuff, from what I understand. I would imagine now would be the time to be pumping out albums.
Yeah. It's definitely the time to write. I mean, you asked me earlier what I was really doing. I wrote a lot of songs. I don't think I'm going to do anything with them.
Right.
Just be like, okay, whatever. But
Is it just a bunch of random drum lines? I mean, bass lines?
no, I write most of the guitar
we should get together
parts.
sometime.
Yeah. You know, do a lot of chugging.
Got dibs on the bass.
That's all good. You can have it. You can have all my basses. I actually want to get
People have described my voice as a mix between Jesus and Fergie.
Mm-hmm. It's an interesting comparison.
It's up to you to make the decision whether you think it's an accurate description.
As Jesus, do you work on your fitness like Fergie does?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I bring my milkshake.
Dude,
things.
Jesus was ripped. I've seen pictures.
Yeah. White Jesus is hardcore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
White Jesus is probably the most ripped of all the Jesuses.
Of all the Jesus side?
Yeah. He had a diet mostly of fish.
He was in his athletic prime.
All right.
He was, what was he, 32 when he died? I think 33, something like that.
Yeah, we've really created a lot of enemies on this episode.
Who have we not hit? Let's
yeah.
see.
Who else could we totally...
So now that we've destroyed your credibility as well,
that's all right. It's okay.
One of our favorite things to do is make sure that we ruin everybody's reputation when they come on the podcast.
But we also have a weird effect on people where you will literally have the best year of your life after being on the podcast.
Yeah.
We do have that.
Yep.
So is this like a televangelist thing? What are you doing here?
No, it's. I see where you're coming from. I see where you're coming from.
We brought Bryce on.
Yep, and then he ended up getting the twister and
Blew up.
Brought TJ on. Then he got on the UFC.
Brought Josh in, and then
He got married.
What's happening with Drysdale?
He's coming out with a documentary.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Way to go.
Yeah, you're welcome.
There you go, Drysdale.
We pretty much made that happen.
We brought him on because of the documentary.
Yeah, that nobody apparently knew about. Yeah, pretty much everybody that's come on the show has pretty much went on to become superstars.
Oh, excellent.
Sure.
Cool.
Yeah.
So maybe you might want to hold on to those songs.
Maybe so. Yeah. I mean, all it is breakdowns and freaking pick scrapes.
That's all you need. Yeah. As long as you can like thrash yourself around on stage, you're good.
Oh, I can definitely do that.
Yeah, that's easy.
That's the easy part.
Yeah, we talked about Stretch Armstrong. I saw them actually play with the Chariot. That was the first time I saw the Chariot in Springfield at... Who else was playing that show? Under Oath.
Oh, okay. Right.
yeah.
Under Oath.
So you were out of the Springfield, like
No,
Fayetteville,
I grew-
Springdale area?
I grew up in Springfield, Missouri as like a kid and then moved to Fayetteville. And that's kind of where I existed, was in that Fayetteville area
Right on.
for the most part. Some real good bands out of Hold Your Own. That was one of my favorites.
Yeah. Stick Tights out of there, right? Do you know those guys? They were a hardcore band that came out a few years ago, and they were pretty good.
Take It Back. Got,
Take It Back.
Facedown.
Yes. I know those guys. Yeah.
Yeah, I was roommates with the singer for a minute, and then he absolutely hates me now, and claims that I stole his room at the house, at the Yellow House, that house.
The living room.
Yeah. And I was like, dude, you didn't pay rent. Like, it's not stealing. You got kicked out because you didn't pay money.
I very clearly called my germs.
Yeah. I can't think of any. Oh, The Wedding. They were out of there. And there was a handful of decent bands out of Fayetteville area.
Yeah.
But now, again, I don't think there's anything coming out of Fayetteville that I know of. But again, I'm not really in
the scene either. That's I don't really partake that much.
I daydream about playing music again a lot.
Then I realized I have 0 minutes in the day to do it.
Yeah.
Like I have no time whatsoever.
Really zero like want to do it anymore.
I want to. I think about it a lot. And then
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know that I'd want to tour. I think it'd be a lot of fun to just play music and write again. But then I bring my guitar out into the living room and my 2-year-old starts slamming on it and wanting to play
strings,
it, getting really pissed off that I won't let her hold my $500 Fender.
Right. Yeah.
And so
I get that.
And I'm like, all right, well, Dad's going to put it up. So now neither one of us can have it. So
I mean, I there are times I miss, being on the road, because most of the friends I have today, I've either made from jiu-jitsu or music.
Mm-hmm.
And I miss those times. And they were like, I mentioned Silent Planet earlier. I went to one of their shows in Nashville and they were on tour with Gideon and Phineas and a few other bands. And the guy from Gideon, the singer, I don't remember his name, he was like, "You look super familiar to me." And I was like, "Nobody." And he was like, No. And I was like, "Yeah, man, I used to be in Soul Embrace." He's like, "That's it." And I was like, "Oh, cool. Somebody knows who we are."
Sweet, yeah.
Yeah, right on. Can I get a free jacket? Oh, cool. But he asked me, he's like,
$20? Okay,
yeah.
just $20.
He's like, "Do you ever miss?" I was like, when I see shows like this that are sold out and like it's, it was For Today. That was the other band.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, I miss it. And then I realized once you leave this, you go get in a crappy van and you drive 8 hours and then you have to get some sleep somehow in there. I don't miss that.
No. Mm-mm.
And my wife, she was over it a long time.
I can only imagine.
Yeah.
She's like, "I am so sick of this." And like we meet people and they find out like, oh, that I used to be like on a label and I used to tour and all this. And they're like, "What's it like being married to a bona fide rock star?" She goes, "Well, first off, he got paid in peanuts. And two,
literally,
it really isn't that cool."
Right.
It's not that cool.
Like,
Being on a label doesn't mean you're getting
it
paid.
doesn't mean anything. I think I told you this the other day. I got 2 good royalty checks. And that was it.
Yeah.
Ever. And
yeah,
it is. But we don't play music for the money. I never played. I never played metal thinking I was going to be like a big metal millionaire.
really being on a label, the big thing is that it takes a lot of the other stuff out. Like you're not calling and setting up all your own shows.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like someone else is taking care of that.
I'm paying somebody 10% of my take to do that.
To go do that, you know, and even then all they're doing is the same thing that you were doing.
Right.
You know, I booked a lot of the shows for some of the bands I was in and it's really easy. You send a MySpace message telling them who you are. Mm-hmm. Here's your information. And we're going to be passing through. Do you have any available dates? And they go, "Here's our calendar. Pick one." All right, cool. Because as we were just openers, like we never headlined when we toured or anything like that. And so like they would just throw us on at the 5:30 opening, spot before anyone even got there. Right. And so,
how much do you think the music scene suffered after MySpace and Peer Volume went under?
All of it.
Yeah. With MySpace for sure. Like MySpace was a great platform.
My
for
Children,
music.
My Bride really fell off after MySpace went under.
Bandcamp, the bandcamp.com kind of started. I've seen that reemerging a lot. I'm not saying that ever went away. Yeah, SoundCloud, but then they were really pushing one very specific genre of music.
Right.
SoundCloud rappers?
Yeah.
There you go.
But Bandcamp, I think, has done some pretty cool stuff for bands. So
there's a guy on YouTube that I followed a long time ago, and he's really gotten weird lately. But he touts that these SoundCloud rappers or emo rap is like the next big thing. And I'm like, man, if the singer from Balance and Composure, if you ever listen to that band, he's an emo rapper now.
Gotcha.
And I'm like, dude, if that's where it's going, I'm out of here.
Well, I mean, I think so. You mentioned like was it Pure Volume and MySpace? Mm-hmm. So the hard thing you got to do now is you've got Facebook and Instagram. Mm-hmm. So that are the main platforms. But you never know what's real and what's not, because you can pay the Facebook algorithm and you can have like, wow, well, these guys got to have some kind of cred. They got 50,000 fans and they show up and no one knows who they are.
Yeah, some podcasts have done that before.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing wrong with promoting yourself, but I always had a problem with being an older guy. Was like, like probably you're aware of, you have to go out there, you have to grind, you have to play the shows. And then you garner a fan base, and then you can build off that. Mm-hmm. Well, now it's like you have, and I'd like to call them Spotify artists. Mm-hmm. They're like, oh, we've got 250,000 plays on Spotify. And I'm like, yeah, but you paid $1,000 to be on a, what's it called? Like a playlist.
Yeah, playlist.
And you have one song that has a lot of hits. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, to me, that's not reality. That's not real music, but I don't know what.
But that's the numbers that everybody's looking for. Mm-hmm. When we talk to sponsors, when we look at how
many plays do you have?
Right. That's all that anybody wants to know about.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Because I mean, our followers, we have our podcast has been a grassroots endeavor the whole time, and I don't even know that we have just over 100 followers on Instagram. Like, it's not a lot.
No, we're at 250 now.
250.
I think it was 249 before I joined today.
Shit. Oh, well, good for us.
Yeah, we're really getting somewhere.
Yeah, we are. We're almost
moving up.
500.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to put out 500 followers? Thanks, 500 followers.
It depends.
We're going to put out an album.
Greatest hits.
Yeah, all our best.
We're going to put a greatest hits album.
Top 10 best dick jokes.
I'd listen to that.
I've got a couple of them.
We've got some good ones.
We do have some good dick jokes.
The rough and tumble dick joke was still my favorite. When I was talking about jerking the guy off. Yeah, when we found out that in rough and tumble fighting, one of the ways to win was to rip off somebody's penis.
Yeah.
And we were talking about it. Imagine how difficult it would be to rip off somebody's penis. You end up just jerking them off.
Yeah. Like I literally was like,
Completion?
yeah, I was just like, there's no way. Like the guy was like, oh, it's almost there. Yeah, you almost got it off there. Yeah. Ooh.
Oh, this is a real bad
Oh, it's a
fight.
real
I'd
bad
hate to get
fight.
another one of these.
Oh, God, you got any friends that want to fight?
We met Marty down the street. I paid him $30 to beat me up like this.
Beat you up or beat you off?
Yeah. It's
Yes.
fighting.
Both, all the above.
Yeah, that was a good episode. We had a really good.
My wife's gonna love this podcast.
Oh, she will. She will. My grandmother loves it too.
Yeah. We had somebody that was
She's like, Frank, he's on the radio again.
yeah. All right, we're at an hour 30.
About to say we're getting there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you got somewhere to be at 2:30, huh?
Let's
I
wrap
don't
this
know.
shit show up. Appreciate you coming on.
Hey, man, thanks for having me.
Really
Had a good
appreciate
time
it.
hanging out.
We
We've
haven't
been
talked
asking.
about we're at the Axe House, by the way.
Yeah,
first
this
of
place
all.
is awesome.
Yes.
We meant to mention that. That's why our sound is so bad again.
Mhm.
It's really echoey in here. But big thanks to Axe House for letting us be here and do all of this stuff. What were you going to say?
Where do you train out of, by the way?
I own a gym in Conway, Gravitas.
Really? Why don't we ever go over there?
We
Because,
do.
yeah.
I
do.
don't.
Yeah, I don't know why you don't go. I don't know why. That's a weird question to ask me.
Hey, Mitch, let's try this. Hey, Mitch, when are you gonna take me over there so we can train?
Soon.
You can come over anytime. I just rolled for the first time in like 4 months yesterday. I'm just coming back from knee surgery.
Oh,
So like it's really not that bad, but it didn't deserve that reaction. But
no, dude, I have bad knees, so knees are the worst.
so I rolled like, give me a couple months and I'll be ready to roll with you. But
Yeah, they do an open mat on Sundays, so sometimes if I'm able, because
not right now though.
Not right now, but they have in the past. And when I couldn't, for me, it's easier to go to his gym than it is to go over to like Bruno's gym because it's
Right.
closer for me. So a lot of times I would go over there when they had them. So
I had somebody email me the other day that was like, hey, I'm coming in from Louisiana. I just wanted to come in and visit and need to know if there's any restrictions because of the governor's blah, blah, blah. I was like, yeah, fucking don't come in.
yeah, 100%.
Do you not understand how this whole pandemic thing works right,
Right.
now?
Just
I
don't
wonder where
come
he's
in.
coming from.
Yeah.
What area?
But yeah, just stupid stuff like that. Yeah, I own a gym in Conway. Come on
Oh,
down.
right on. I'll come train. Awesome.
Yep. So anyways, thanks for coming on.
Hey,
and
thanks for having
we
me, guys.
appreciate it. Big thanks to Axe House. And we've got, if you want to book us at your venue, hit us up on Rough and Tumble Podcast at gmail.com or our Instagram. You can, or Stephanie, you can follow Stephanie's Instagram and hit her up. She's our producer and she'll get all of that taken care of for us. Steph, that's hard. That's hard to say.
Step a tumble.
Defatumbleopicus.
Steph Rough and Tumble on Instagram. And then you can also check out our Patreon. We're still trying to put out more content for that. And we're looking at doing some video games
Oh,
soon. Really, that's our best chance at
know.
consistent stuff because we're so busy. So look out for that in the future. And we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Black Dave, shut your life.